Hi, I'm Chicken Johnny. It's Thursday. We're going to have a garden tour. If you like watching gardening, if you like learning about how to grow vegetables, if you have a garden of your own and you want to see what we're doing and make comments and tell me to do things differently or help me out in my pursuit of gardening excellence, or if you live in the city and you just want to look and see what country life is all about, press that subscribe button. There's a little picture of my tractor in the corner somewhere. Push that button, or down below the screen there's a subscribe button. Subscribe so that you don't miss any of it. We're going to be taking a walk through the garden every week to look at the progress of the garden. And then partway between each week, we're going to post about one of the specialty things that we do, something that we work on, a DIY project, or maybe showing you how to trussel your tomatoes or how to prune your tomatoes or how to get more plants in a larger space, because that's what we do. We've got plenty of land and we use the tractor to do our cultivating, to do our weeding, and we use the tractor to do our planting, and as much as we can. That's what sort of differentiates us from some of the other shows on YouTube. So click subscribe if you want to follow along. We're going to take a walk through the garden and see just what we've got. Now, the whole point of this series of videos that I'm making is to give you an idea of what we're doing. We're calling it the 2020 Garden Tour. And we call it the Tractor Garden Tour because we do everything we can in the garden using tractors, using tools and equipment. Some of the tools are older than me, some of the tools are brand new. But we're trying to do as much as we can without using chemicals and without spending an outrageous amount of time working in the garden. Now, we already spend a lot of time. But let me take you through the garden. We're going to go rather quickly. There's a lot of things this week that weren't even here last week, and that's what's exciting about the garden. Now, if you look way back there, beyond the grass, there's a whole field that we just planted in squashes. And we've got a field here that we plan to plant in melons. We've got a little bit of time left to do it, and fortunately the weather is a little bit more on our side. You might notice, if you've been watching these videos, there used to be a pond there, but it's dried out. Without any further ado, let's just take the tour. These are the peas. And you can see we've got a pretty good line of them. And I'll try and get a shot of that. You can see we've got a little bit of insect pressure on these peas. Now you can also see we've got some posts up. We're waiting. Hopefully on Monday, we're going to have the trestle material. And we'll be able to trestle our beans. These are actually Blue Lake pole beans. And we're going to planted some zucchini, and here's one, and here's one, and then I've got a couple over here, and I've got a few more in that line. Now these are onions. These were onions that were left over from last year, and you see they're drying out a little bit. And here you've got, these are shallots, and I've got a few that didn't make it in here, but for the most part, that row of shallots is pretty good. There's a sunflower coming up. I think I'm just going to leave it. It'll challenge those couple of shallots, but I like to have a sunflower in the garden. That's a Swiss chard plant. And it is doing pretty well. There's actually a fairly thick row of Swiss chard, but we've got a lot of grass. Red top turnips, and you can see we've got some bugs in there. There's one right there. Oh, that was just dirt. But this is kale, and it's doing fairly well. I've got 2 rows of kale. Your Detroit red beets, and again we've got a grass issue. Got a sunflower growing there that just missed the tiller. And here's some more Detroit red beets, and we've hoed out some of this pretty well, but if you look down the lane there's a lot of grass. One of the exciting things is next week you can go ahead and tune in and see if we got the grass out of there. Now we've tilled this all over and it's ready for peppers, eggplant, and whatever else we might put in there. quick peek at the perennial garden. Well, by nature or by design, it's supposed to be a perennial garden, but we haven't filled it with perennials. So I also have tomatoes planted in here, and I have some dill. So here's the dill, and Sandy's really the one planting the dill, and it's looking like it'll be pretty thick. That should be a good stand of dill. Here's my rhubarb, and hopefully in a couple of years that'll be better. Oh, we got a weed growing in there. That rhubarb plant is a little bit stronger. This one's a little bit better, but we've got bug pressure. We got to get the bugs out. And then these are some blueberry plants, some blackberries, and here's the asparagus. And then we've got some beefsteak tomatoes, and I've got a line set up to start trellising them. We'll probably get the trellis lines put in place pretty soon. But the tomatoes are looking good. We had something come in and chew on these. I think it was a deer. And then we've got another line of asparagus here. The weeds are getting a little bit thick in the asparagus, but we're not. These tomatoes here, these are doing really well. I mean, these are kind of incredible when you consider they've grown significantly. And there's the apple trees. You might have remembered from the first garden tour, we had the apple trees were in full bloom. We're going to cross over here, and these are the strawberries that we moved. Now you'll notice that this one here got a little bit of sun scald because we had some really sunny days, and they're doing okay. This one's doing significantly better, I think, in this pot. So now, since the last garden tour, we planted, these rows, you've got 4 rows here. These are cucumbers in this row, pickling cucumbers, so they're the kind of small variety of cucumber. And then in this row, these are a mixture of broccoli, Chinese cabbage. There's a cabbage there. Same thing here. These and then these are kohlrabis all the way down. That's purple kohlrabi. And then we get into the sweet potatoes. And so there's a sweet potato, and there's a sweet potato there. The sweet potatoes will eventually vine out, and so what will happen is we'll have sweet potatoes growing in amongst sweet potatoes, and then the vines will come in here into the kohlrabis. By then, the kohlrabis will be gone. Kohlrabis will be out of here by probably mid-August, and by the time the sweet potatoes get that far over, they're really not going to be, the kohlrabis will be big enough, we'll be able to get them out of there. Now, we've got 1 row of sweet potatoes here, we've got 1 row of sweet potatoes here, and I'll get on there a little bit. Sweet potato, sweet potato, sweet potato, sweet potato, sweet potato. And then that goes on down the row. And then we come over across, and we've got more sweet potatoes here up the row, and there's a lot of grass in there. I'm going to make a prediction that by next week we should have all the weeds out of the sweet potatoes. There's more sweet potatoes, and then we come over to the regular potatoes, and I've hilled these, and they've come back up through, but look at how luscious that potato is. I'm going to look underneath these leaves, and that's what I was afraid I was going to find. These are the eggs, or the larvae, I should say, for the Colorado potato bug. So I'm not seeing any more, just those few. So I'll walk this whole field looking for Colorado potato bugs larvae. But here you've got it. These were the ones that we planted out of our own stock. That first row there and this row here. Looks like I've got a volunteer. I don't know if that's I think that's a maybe a broccoli volunteer, or maybe it's a Chinese cabbage volunteer. And you come down here, we get into, these are the Kennebecs. So you can see the Kennebecs, we got some milkweed starting in there. I'll leave the milkweed if it doesn't get in my way. That way the butterflies have something. I used to grow a lot of milkweed here intentionally. So we'll see. But you can see there's a lot, I don't know if the camera's picking it up, there's a lot of flies. And we didn't get great germination in our Kennebec potatoes. I'm a little bit disappointed in that. There's one. The ones that did come up came up really well. So it might have been an issue in planting. These are the Yukon Golds. And that is a beautiful potato plant. Look underneath the leaves looking for any sign of insects, insect larvae. I'm not seeing it. We have pulled a few potato bugs out of the garden already. But you've got these Yukon Golds seem to be, the germination was excellent on the Yukon Golds. And then we get into the russets, and again, excellent germination. I've got a couple small areas over there, but germination was excellent. I hilled these 3 or 4 days ago, maybe 3 days ago, and they need to be hilled again. So hopefully the rain holds off a little bit. We've been getting some dew at night and maybe a little rain at night, but nothing that even shows up on the rain gauge. And these russets are just full and thick and beautiful. And we look underneath here, and there's, well, no, I don't think so. I think that's just the leaf. I thought I saw a couple little insects there. There was a little fly. So that's what we've got. Maybe I need to get the chickens into the potatoes in a little bit here. I'm hoping they'll eat potato bugs. If you know the answer to that question, you go ahead and click the comment section and go ahead and leave me a comment on that. And this here is the onion patch. This is where we're going to end. Usually we start our garden tour here in the onion patch. There'll be a little bonus footage after I say goodbye. You'll see the carrots. The carrots are doing phenomenally well. I may never plant carrots in the ground again because the carrots that are growing in that box are growing just extremely well. So I have a feeling that in the future we're going to have some really big raised planters to do carrots in. And these are the onions. I want you to get a good view of these onions. And with the exception of right on the sides there, these onions are pretty clean. They're not starting to bulb up. This one's pretty thick, but it's not really starting to bulb. We may come in here in another week and we may go ahead and scrape a little dirt through here, just loosening up the soil so it's easier for them to bulb. You see though that you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, looks like 5 leaves on that side. 1, 2, 3, 4 on that side. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So it's 4 on each side. So what that means, oops. So what that means is that right now there's 4 layers on that onion, or actually 8 layers on that onion. So I'm excited. But these are the onions, and that's our garden tour for today. So I'm Chicken Johnny. Emitzer Shem, I'll see you again. Don't forget to subscribe. It's the little button, the little picture of my tractor down in the corner. Subscribe, and then I'm going to throw a link to our first and second garden tour up at the top. So if you're just joining us for the first time, you'll be able to link the garden tour 1 and garden tour 2 and see how far we've gotten, see how we've come along. A couple of things that are coming up. We're going to be getting a new implement for weeding our garden, and we're going to be getting that in the next couple of days, I'm hoping. And we're probably also going to start working on fixing the hoop house this summer, so that'll be coming up. Emitzer Shem, I'll see you again. I'm Chicken Johnny. Eat your vegetables. Have a great day.